welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A in our West Loop offices here in downtown Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello. You
can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. We are being produced today by Sarah.
Hi.
Hello. And you can follow us on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. Vinny last night on Twitter released, I guess he was sent, and then he disseminated the renderings of the 78 district and the new stadium that is being put out. So we'll be discussing that for the large part of today's show. And of course, mainly, we'll be discussing the non-roster invites for spring training. So a lot of White Sox news today. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. Make sure you are helping support us. We just did have Corey Crawford on the CHGO Blackhawks show. They just had a CHGO Bulls reaction show to the lack of a trade deadline, and there's going to be a pregame and postgame. So we have you, the Chicago sports fan, covered here at CHGO Sports, whether you're a Sox fan, a Blackhawks fan, a Bulls fan, a Bears fan, et cetera, et cetera.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above.
We also just dropped our Tavern-style episode today with Luke Stuckmeyer from CHGO Cubs and then Big Dave from CHGO Bulls.
And Luke Stuckmeyer was complaining about Jerry Reinsdorf. So there you go. I mean, if you are interested in hearing Luke's take on that, go check that out. But if you are looking to become a diehard as well, that is to elevate your fandom, to get locked in with us here at CHGO, like Kevin and Saran did, our new diehards, head over to allchgo.com, lever up with your fandom. You get a CHGO shirt of your choice. When you sign up, you get access to our CHGO Discord, where you get to chat with us all throughout the day and week, and you also get access to special articles on allchgo.com.
Working on some stuff for spring training starting next week.
Look at Vinny. And I know Will Gottlieb's hard at work in the conference room right now. He just released midseason grades as well for our diehards. So make sure you are checking out that program at allchgo.com. So we left here at 5 o'clock, went home, enjoyed our dinners, and on my drive home, Tamar Bradley of WGN released the renderings. He was the first one to release the renderings of the 78. It seems to be a big old packet of all the beautiful ideas that they have between Related Midwest and the Chicago White Sox. Where are we right now? Because Sarah, our producer, who has been with us for most of this offseason, did before the show think that it was a done deal. So where are we at with this whole situation? This isn't an actual current project. There's been no one signing on any dotted lines, no?
As far as I know, it's just conversation, and we've obviously been talking about it for several weeks now, but really it's been the Sun-Times reporting that conversations are being had between the White Sox and the owners of this property, as well as the city of Chicago, to kind of make something like this come to life. Whether that actually happens or not, is remains to be seen. But certainly we're down the road now in talking about it a little bit further than we have been on some other things. I mean, compare it to the pretty much nothing that was the idea of, Nashville kind of thing. This is obviously a lot more detailed than that in terms of what's being reported and what's being discussed between the parties. That being said, no, there has not been any sort of deal or announcement of any kind. I was actually talking to you, Sean. The White Sox sent these drawings to me and the rest of the media last night. That's the first we've heard from the team about this. Yes, the Sun-Times, I believe, had a statement from the White Sox and Brandon Johnson, the mayor, talking about the idea of keeping the White Sox in the city for the long term. But in terms of the White Sox making announcements to the media, this was the first bit of it, and it was renderings of what this ballpark could look like, which, of course, we're going to go into. But so where are we on this? I still think this is just ideas and conversations and everything. And listen, it might be more realistic than just what if, but it is not anything that has been announced right now. I keep comparing it to what the Bears have been doing out in Arlington Heights. The Bears bought that land, knocked down the racetrack, and they still do not have a stadium going into that land in Arlington Heights. So there are a lot of things that need to get done before these renderings turn into something you can actually go see over there in the South Loop, and we don't know when or if those steps are going to be completed.
Just for my thing, it's like if the White Sox are participating and sending out stuff to the media, White Sox media, it's going to be really hard to come back and say, yeah, we didn't get a deal done, and we're not going to do that anymore. Yeah, you're just back to guaranteed rate field. I love guaranteed rate field. It's a decent ballpark. But when you show us these renderings, you show us how beautiful that ballpark looks, and right on the Chicago River on the South Branch, like, you give people hope and dreams for a better tomorrow. And it's so beautiful to see those renderings and to think about being there at that ballpark, because I see so many other ballparks in that renderings ballpark. It's like you got Petco, you got the Gallagher Way of Petco, you have the right field of Coors Field, the left field of PNC Park, and then the outside looks like Oracle. So it's like, man, if you get this all together, you could have one of the greatest baseball stadiums in the United States. And then if you take it away, it'll be so tough. So I think it's just too good of a thing, and you don't have these renderings. And I know they might be AI renderings, and so not really done by a hand human who's doing a hand drawing. But you don't go down this far just to bring it back and say, yeah, that was just a pipe dream. We're going to bring it back. And sorry, guys. Guaranteed rate forever.
I showed you guys, we had a remote show, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I showed you all the old renderings of all the proposals of stadiums. There's been a lot of proposals for stadiums and only a couple that have been built. So I don't know if this is even too far yet at this point.
Huh? Those renderings weren't of the internet. We have the internet now. Like, no one really saw those renderings back in the day.
So now that people have seen the renderings, that means it's real?
No, it just means that you don't give somebody something and then take it back from them. You don't get this far down the road with the internet and all how the White Sox Twitter has exploded about it and then say, oh, yeah, that's good.
But again, like, we don't know how this would be paid. No one has signed.
No.
Like, how can you take it back if it's not even a thing? It's right now, it's not a plan.
It's not, but they're
talking.
They're participating with the media. They're obviously good with the message, and they're sending out good renderings that we're going to be showing a little later on to the media and to us as the fans. I think they're way down the road more than we're letting on.
They had 250 million reasons to go down the road with Manny Machado, and they didn't continue going down that one. I mean, I don't know. You mentioned that guaranteed rate field is fine. It's 30 years old.
Fine.
You walk around that park, there's nothing that seems to be truly decaying about that park. There might be some parts that are worrisome.
As someone who is the same age as guaranteed rate field, thank you for not saying that something that is 34 years old is decaying.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, they're trying to build a new one. They're not trying to build a new Vinnie Duber. But like, yeah, I don't see the true points in a new stadium outside of, it does seem like Jerry Reinsdorf is angling to sell the team within the next 5 to 7 years. And I think that a new stadium would be something that is a selling point to someone who is stepping into Chicago for the first time as an owner.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you would want a new stadium. I think obviously the main one is it's a moneymaker, right? I mean, listen to Herb talk about it, and Herb salivate over the idea of a new stadium. He wants to go spend money and sit in those seats in that stadium. And there's a lot of White Sox fans out there that would feel the same way. You build a new stadium to get butts in the seats, to make money, to get ticket price, to get ticket revenue. But on top of it too, the White Sox don't currently own their stadium. If they owned this stadium, they could do more things to make more money. They could have the control. That's certainly what we keep hearing about with the Bears, why they want to move from Soldier Field, because they don't own Soldier Field. They would be able to do things in their new stadium under their control and under their watch. We don't know really whether the White Sox would be buying the land or just building a new stadium on the land with this developer. But if they do buy the land and control all the things that go in there, they get revenue from bars and restaurants and whatever other buildings would go in there. So there's a lot of reasons to want to build this land from a money-making standpoint. But that being said, again, this is very much planning an idea, and they call it blue sky, okay, throw every idea up there and let's see what's feasible. Plans change, and you see renderings for all sorts of stuff that get proposed and built in all different walks of life, and those things can become a reality, but maybe not in the form that you see in the drawing, right? And so there might be a new stadium down in the South Loop in 10 years, and you go up and you hold up the drawing and you look at it and you're like, that looks a lot different. So it's not just necessarily this all or nothing, like, oh, they're releasing these renderings. Is it going to happen or is it not? And that's it. It's what form does it happen in? How much of what's on the page becomes feasible, becomes cost effective, and becomes something that they can actually put into reality? And that we certainly don't know at the moment.
Why don't we take a break and then we'll look at the renderings and talk about maybe what will truly be the look of this stadium, what will stay, what won't stay, what is feasible, what's not feasible. We'll let you know about our friends over at Prize Picks and our guy Charlie the Bacon Guy. Prize Picks is probably the best way for you to enjoy the big game this Sunday. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easy and most exciting way to play DFS, and it's just you against the numbers. Instead of batting thousands of players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You got some NBA games tonight. You got some college basketball games tonight if you want to try it out before Sunday's big game. But Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this basketball season. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on the projected stats, and place your entry. I'm very much fiending and waiting for Prize Picks to post a line on Isaiah Hartenstein's points plus rebounds plus assists. We'll wait to make sure that's a part of my parlay. But Prize Picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. So go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Thank you very much to Prize Picks.
Charlie the Bacon Guy is based out of Woodridge, Illinois, and he makes craft bacon and craft bacon jam with over 30 different flavors. The bacon and the bacon jams are all naturally cured, fancy preservative-free products. There aren't any ingredients that Charlie can't pronounce himself involved in the process, unlike most of store-bought bacon. It is vacuum sealed and freezes great. Lasts in the package up to 45 days in the fridge and 6 months in the freezer. The bacon jam lasts about 60 days in the fridge, and Charlie says about 20 seconds when he gets home, or up to 6 months in the freezer. Some of the favorites are maple bacon, cheddar, Korean barbecue, beer cured, red wine, jardinera. This one got my mouth watering already. French toast bacon. Can you imagine that? French toast in a bacon. Applewood smoked, which I would go with. That's the regular bacon I would usually eat. And the bacon jam flavors are original, bourbon, spicy, and peach. The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything. Scrambled eggs, toast, crackers, burgers, grilled cheese, cinnamon rolls, or Charlie's favorite, the spoon. You can pick up, which is the most efficient way, or he will deliver it to you, or meet you halfway, or even ship it. He makes the bacon so he can bring it to you so you can bring it home. Head on over to charliethebaconguy.com to place your order. You can contact him either at Charlie the Bacon Guy at Instagram or CZ the Bacon Guy on Twitter.
Thanks, Herb. We got a super chat from Dougie saying tailgate area or we riot. I did notice that a lot of people's complaints so far have been about parking.
What a surprise.
We'll get into that in a second because I feel like people are just missing out on some of the things that are currently there with these renderings. So first off, let's look at what would happen with 35th and Shields, because when we go back to the comment that Brandon Johnson made, my conversation with Jerry was very positive. One of the things I did appreciate in our conversation is that what they're considering is the way new stadiums should and could look. They have the community benefit in mind. We have not gotten into the intricacies and details just yet. There'll be time for that, but these conversations these were conversations that weren't happening before. I just hope that this is yet another display of my leadership. Okay.
Patting himself on the back.
Yeah. All right, Brandon.
Breaking his arm.
But again, that was about 2 weeks ago. I don't think that they've gotten that much further into the intricacies and details. We still don't know who's funding this project. But let's go to 35th and Shields first, because Related Midwest not only released renderings for the new 78, but for what would happen with 35th and Shields. So this is Guaranteed Rate Field. You can obviously see 35th Street right there to the left of the ballpark, separating what it would now be a soccer pitch, presumably for the Chicago Fire, and then income housing, I guess, or
it said affordable
housing.
Yeah.
So,
and I put those in quotes, and still you got all that parking there.
Yeah, why are all those parking lots still there? Who's coming to park
zoom
there?
up just a little bit,
I guess
Sarah?
all those buildings, people could just park in the endless parking spaces at whatever guaranteed.
It's just
rate
like
they
for their
call it.
apartments?
Yeah.
Wait, so is there parking?
Yeah,
All the black is currently
parking.
existing parking lots.
So, like, what is east of Armour Square, like towards 90-94? That's just parking?
Yeah.
That's a parking lot currently.
Yeah,
It
that's
is?
I think that's lot A. That's the back of
The
lot
only,
A.
the only new stuff is what appears to be drawn. The rest of it is just a Google Maps image or a satellite image.
Yeah,
You're
and,
right,
and
yeah.
It keeps, obviously, the main parking lot right there next to the park. But that's also the one thing that doesn't make sense about the current stadium, and I know a lot of people from the suburbs love the parking. There's 78 acres of parking. There's too much damn parking.
Yes.
So let's go to some of the views from the 78. There wasn't this one specific view, and this is fine to leave up on the screen, Sarah, but there is an overhead shot of this where you can see home plate facing out, and then behind the stadium, there are like several buildings. That is where the parking will be. There are streets that lead, like when you look at this from an overview side, behind the third baseline, in front of the Chicago River, there is a street. Okay. So that street would then lead to parking. And I believe that Crane's Business reported that right now there's plans for a 4,000 car garage.
That street does not currently exist. That is not currently a road.
No.
That's
I think it is,
train
actually.
tracks.
No. I think that there is
It's not
one
a road
road
you can
there.
drive on.
No, but it's like a auxiliary road.
Okay, but my point is it's not a street with an address or anything like that.
No, that is true. There is no address there. But it does seem like there will be parking. But let's just talk about the actual park right now. So let's go back to the home plate view if you can, Sarah. What do you make of the skyline view? All right.
The other one.
The home plate one? I'm sorry, Sarah. What do you make of what do you make of the home plate view?
There we go.
What do you think of the buildings in the background? Did they capture what you wanted the outfield to look like?
It's nice. It's really nice. I mean, if you're going to have the big-ass scoreboard right there blocking some of the view to the buildings, I mean, guess, picky. But it looks really nice. As I said, the right field reminds me of Coors. It's the party deck up top, and it looks like it extends out to center into the what would be both the Cubs call it Gallagher Way, and I think the Padres call it Gallagher Square, kind of that atrium/pavilion outside the ballpark where you can watch the game even though you're not inside the game. But I think those people would also have to have tickets to be in that area. But it looks like a modern stadium, and look at the showpiece. You get the Sears Tower in the background for those people who want the Chicago skyline back there. But then all those new buildings, and those buildings in this rendering are going to be new buildings because there's none around that area that are that close to the stadium. So that would be really good look for the White Sox, and a showplace for baseball right in the heart of downtown Chicago and the South Loop. They say they have the red line is not that far away, which it isn't. It's on Roosevelt. I think in Roosevelt and I forgot the cross
Michigan.
street. Yeah.
Oh, well, State.
Yeah, Roosevelt and State. So it's not too far of a walk. They got the water taxis apparently going down the Chicago River. So I think if they can get something like that in that area, it's a home run for everybody. And I hate to do the baseball puns, but depending on who's paying for it, I'm all in. If it's the no new taxes thing, that's a tricky word they use to fool us to thinking, hey, man, we don't have to pay for it. No, that just means you're just continuing taxes that you're already paying. So that's going to be a thing for me, and I think also a thing for J.B. Pritzker, who says he doesn't want people taxpayers be paying for billionaire stadiums. So I hope that they can get the stadium done. And as Vinny said, the Sox maybe want to have ownership of that stadium so they can make passive revenue off of that stadium when they're not playing, concerts and such.
Yeah, I mean, that view is lovely. I'm interested to see if it would actually look like that. I mean, we've talked so many times about the distance between downtown and not only 35th and Shields, but certainly this property as well when we first started talking about it. If you're standing at that spot, is the Sears Tower really that close? I don't know. But and the thing that I think is that, I always think about Pittsburgh. You can see the bridge beyond the stadium. St. Louis, you can see the arch behind the stadium. There's no point, in my opinion, of having a skyline view if it's just a bunch of apartment buildings nobody knows about, right? I mean, and so, again, looks nice, sure, but and maybe this is my ignorance about that city, but Minnesota has a downtown ballpark where you can see buildings behind the ballpark, but I don't know what any of those buildings are, so I don't care that they're there. Is that going to be the same case here? Am I just going to be looking at some rich person's condo in the South Loop? That is not an iconic view, so to speak, and so maybe that element of it does not end up being as grandiose as some people might have envisioned, but I don't know. I haven't been down there and stood at where home plate might be. I don't know if that's what the Sears Tower looks like from that angle or not.
And the thing is, while that view will be great and that ballpark looks awesome, it doesn't matter. You could see in Pittsburgh, it does not matter if the team is trash. That is probably one of my favorite ballparks. Every time I go to it, it's bone dry empty because the team sucks. If that team is the same team that's currently playing, no one's going to be going to that stadium like they are, like you think they are. Like the renderings got them at 35,000. Initially, maybe, but after a couple of years, we're good. This was a thing, and now the team sucks. I don't need to be here.
Well, and that's the issue is the team isn't going to get any better with a new stadium. This is possibly 5 years away. This is obviously an investment for Jerry Reinsdorf and the group that owns the Chicago White Sox. But this isn't going to just immediately increase attendance, right? It might have a little bit of a bump for the first couple of years that it's open, if it does. But unless the team is actually good, that's the only way you're going to truly draw people into the stadium.
Yeah, I think guaranteed rate in its 30-plus years has only gone over American League average attendance rates like 7 times. The first 3 years it was built. The years after the 2005 World Series are like 6, 7, and 8. And then maybe the season that we just had in 22. But it's been very bleak. White Sox fans do not attend a game if your team is bad, and they got to have a show me first type of thing. Because in 2005, they didn't even go over American League average. It had to happen the year after. Right. So this is the thing: you build that stadium, excellent, awesome. Put a premium product out there. That's why we were talking yesterday about going to get a premium free agent. And I know it's far-fetched. If you got a stadium like that, you got to have a player like that to go with it. Remember, Luis Roberts' contract only 4 more years. This is at least 5 years away. So you sign a big-time project like Juan Soto, you can go into that stadium, and people's like, I got to go and see Juan Soto and that stadium.
It'd be fun. I'm all for Juan Soto being in a White Sox uniform. I'll go out on that ledge. Sarah, if you can go back to that one photo of the skyline in the background, there is just something about these renderings that isn't able to suck me in. I'm not really able to generate this excitement. I'm glad people are excited. I'm not trying to take down anyone's excitement. I'm just trying to give my feelings. And you bring up, Vinny, just like, if it's not done right, if the skyline view isn't done right, and it is just people's apartment buildings and maybe like a Chase building or something like that, it's really going to fall flat. Like, this needs to be the Chicago skyline featured,
well,
right?
As best they can do. They can't move the land, what I mean?
I know.
Right.
But I guess my thing is like, if you really can't deliver on it, if you can't get the true skyline view, why do it?
Well, because it could be a nice area with a nice new ballpark. I think we've talked about how the neighborhood around it would that being changed and being different would be something positive about that. The location next to the river, the location next to the transportation. There are a lot of positive things about that location outside of just the view that you could potentially have. So I don't think that it's like I said, I don't think it's this all or nothing thing. I don't think there's a way where like, here is the obvious way to point it, and here is the obvious way that if they didn't point it, it would be a total screw up. Like, no, it's going to be fine regardless of what direction it's facing.
Unless it's south.
What's that?
Unless it's south.
Can't they not face it south? Remember our little chart that we looked at?
No, they can't face it west.
They can't face it west.
They can't face it west, so they can't do, as Jared says, you can't face it west. You can't have those Chicago River home run shots.
Right, right.
So beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying. I think that part piece of land and that neighborhood could be a huge positive, regardless of what the view ends up being.
But isn't that? I don't know.
I mean, everybody right now talks about, oh my God, they screwed it up so bad because it doesn't face the skyline. You can't see the skyline from Bridgeport, or you're not going to have a home run view of a skyline from Bridgeport unless you're sitting in the upper deck.
No offense, Vinny. This scale model shows you that clearly the Sears Tower.
I love going down to Bridgeport and being
center.
able to visit both the Sears Tower and the John Hancock building on the exact same block.
They're right next to each other.
Yes,
Right
and
next
the Smith-Smurfett building right next to it also.
And the red one.
The red one.
I don't know what it is. But I think that is the whole point, to move it. Like you have to have that marquee reason to put a stadium there. What is the selling point of the 78? And I guess that it's a whole new neighborhood. And I guess that maybe is your angle, is you can really build up that neighborhood. You can make it more of an expansive fan experience. But the one thing that will be truly recognizable in Petco, it's recognizable. You have that massive ass building out in left field. Fenway, you have the massive ass left field that just sucks you into that baseball stadium. Coors Field, you have all of that just expansive outfield where it just feels like, you can hit a ball 500 feet and it'll just keep going. I don't really think that there's anything that really sucks you into this baseball design, this park design. It does seem very cookie cuttery. It does seem like AI renderings. It does seem like they are truly just piecing together other things from ballparks and just making a cluster of a rendering. It doesn't feel like, hey, this is our true vision for this brand new stadium. It seems like, hey, we have an idea that we want to create a new neighborhood, but the actual stadium part of it doesn't really feel that fleshed out. The 78 part feels fleshed out.
Well,
the stadium.
I think to maybe, not to speak for you, but I think to a lesser degree, it's the thing that I always say about it being goofy or wacky. Mm-hmm. You want some uniqueness. You want something that you look at and you say, wow, I haven't seen that before. And I'm not even talking about architecture or anything like that. I'm talking about just something that says, that's cool. That is something that would make that ballpark a destination that I can't get going to the other 29 in baseball. And listen, I'm all for that, whether that's with the White Sox or any other baseball stadium across the country, any other pro sports stadium at all across the country. Do something that makes people want to go to it, that makes it different. So you can say, I went to the stadium with the big green wall in left field. I went to the stadium where they've got, plants growing on the outfield wall. That kind of thing is definitely something that if you're starting from scratch, I mean, it's not just you have to build a baseball stadium that looks like all the other baseball stadiums. That's literally an empty patch of land over there. Build whatever your imagination can dream up, right?
Where's the moat?
And
Where is the moat?
And the thing is, the most iconic stadiums in baseball are Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. The reason why they are iconic is because they were built in such small areas, and so they had to get creative with their design. And so this looks like a small area also. So, yeah, as Vinny says, don't just be average. As I said, there's elements of Coors, PNC, Oracle in this stadium, and it's just a rendering, but make it your own. Make it like a big-ass wall. Like I said, bring the train in there that's going 2 miles an hour.
How about no wall?
No wall in where?
No, I'm just saying, like...
They just keep on running the bus?
No, not an outfield wall. No, I mean, like why does the back of the stadium need to have all these signs and walls up? Why can't it just look like you're just going out into the park or going out further down the street? You know what I mean? Like, that's a unique thing. I remember when we said, here, you talk about renderings that never came true. There were renderings of an A's ballpark a few years back proposed in Oakland where it literally was sitting in the middle of a public park and the grass continued up the side of the stadium, and you could walk from the grass that was in the middle of the parkland up the side and like look down into the stadium where the ball game was being played. I mean, these are the weird things that I want to see that are parts of ballparks. You don't have to just make the nicest looking version of what already exists. Go ahead and create something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. And two, Red Sox Machine and Jim Margulis wrote about the renderings. And you look at, Sarah, if you want to flash the home plate picture again where you can see out to the skyline, even the iconic pinwheels feel like a little bit of an afterthought. They don't really feel like they're worked in. It just feels like they kind of like took them off the current scoreboard and placed them out in center field. They're also not even centered. Yeah. I don't really feel the care for the design of this stadium. So it doesn't really get me excited.
Exploding scoreboard, not just the pinwheels. It's supposed to be the exploding scoreboard. So keep it where it's supposed to be. Just put a smaller scoreboard in center field right there. That looks literally like what they do at Petco in the middle of their field. So I don't understand why they're just copying it. It looks beautiful. I like the skyline in the background. I don't know if the Sears Tower is there, but I did take a picture from Ping Tom when I was there last year, and you could see the buildings from Ping Tom. So this is a little further up north. So they would be in the background, but not like PNC where they're in the background and they're part of the design, or like if you've ever been to Comerica, that's the same thing. There's buildings in the background, and you can see them as part of the design.
Yeah. We got a couple people watching right now. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. We're going to take a break in a second. I did just find the renderings that you were talking of that A's stadium, so I'll send them to Sarah. So, Sarah, if you want to check Slack, I have one more graphic for you.
Okay.
We do want to let you know about...
Those are right on the water, too, if memory serves.
Yeah, right on the water. Yeah.
Steal them.
It looks bizarre.
Just make that stadium.
Hey,
we need.
It's weird, and it's real small too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that they did for LA is Las Vegas is very weird because it's basically like if you took the White Sox design, but instead of the Sears Tower being the main skyline part, it's just the MGM Grand.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, all right. This is
Which
bizarre.
is also not nearly as tall.
Right. It's not even pretty. All right. Want to let you know about our friends over at CIRCA Sportsbook. If you are looking to bet on the big game this upcoming Sunday, there is no better place than for you to put your money down over at CIRCA Sportsbook. CIRCA has tight money line splits that makes it attractive for you, the better. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the CIRCA Sports menu, unlike other sportsbooks, which may use a -115 or -120 split. CIRCA keeps as little money as possible on large market bets like futures and golf tournaments, especially compared to other books, which allow them to offer these prices. They have high app limits and transparency as well, so you won't be limited based on your winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available so you can compare the lines from each sports book, and you can check and make sure that you are getting the best price possible for the wager that you want to make. And you will see that if, not most of the time, if not all the time, the world's largest sportsbook, CIRCA Sportsbook, has you covered with the best price to lay. So download the CIRCA Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. That's circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also be on lookout for CIRCA events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537, text GMB to 833-234, or visit areyoureallywinning.com. All right, let's real quick, we'll wrap up this Oakland talk. I'll get this graphic sent over to Sarah. I guess the one question that we haven't talked about is the funding, and then we'll get into non-roster invites. I know it's always a fun topic to talk about government spending. And Sarah, if you want to be a gem, can you search Connor's comments about public funding? Because he shared some good information on teams that have recently built parks and how much % of that has been public money. So Globe Life Field, there was $500 million of public money. 41% of that stadium was built with public money. Then you look at Truist Park, public money, they received $300 million. That was 42% of the cost. Lone Depot Park in Miami received $479 million of public money. That was 76% of the cost. And then Target Field received $355 million. That's 64% 64% of the cost right there. So what do we make of how this is going to get built? Because obviously, Herb, we've heard a lot about Jerry Reinsdorf and his lack of prowess to spend on players. What would really make him spend on a stadium, or will this be publicly funded?
I mean, I think him and the Wirtz family bought that United Center. They used their money to buy that stadium together, and he can see the benefits of that and how they can get the revenue from that building. The Illinois Sports Authority owns Guaranteed Rate Field, so that's why I think you don't see a lot of concerts there. You don't see a lot of extra stuff done there to give that passive income. You got to stop being penny wise and pound foolish. If you're Jerry Reinsdorf, you're here for 20 more years if you're lucky. You can't take that money with you. What your legacy can be, part of your legacy can be, is spending some of that money, majority of that money, on building this stadium. As we, as the taxpayers, don't mind helping you out a little bit, a skosh, maybe a 1 or 2%, but with the infrastructure, so we can use that 365. I can't go into the 78 on a random Tuesday, even though I paid for that stadium. I can't do that at Guaranteed Rate Field, even though the state owns that ballpark. The thing is, you build your stadium, you could do whatever the hell you want with the stadium. Concerts, you can have all the parking you want or none of the parking you want. You could charge it however much you want, and it all goes back to you and hopefully back into the team. So I am not a proponent of having us as taxpayers paying for the stadium. If they want to do that, do the California system where you put it to a vote. And if us as Chicagoans and Cook County residents want to do that, I'll be all for it. That's 100% I'll be all for it if they do a vote and it's 50 to 49 or 50.1 to 49.9. I'm like, all right, I don't like it, but you guys as the taxpayers said they're going to vote for it, I'm in. But by that time, I'll be out of Cook County, but whatever. But you need to have us who are footing the bill have a chance to have our say. And even though they say no new taxes, we all know there'll be cost overruns and there'll be taxes put upon us. And even the Bears are now trying to stay in town too. So we know they're going to be asking for our money too. So if we're doing it either or, I'd rather pay for the Bears stadium than this one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, you talk about the statement from the mayor, saying that the details and all that will be ironed out later. Those are some pretty big details. And, as we even are seeing still with an A's team that is out the door to Las Vegas, pretty much, we still see, government officials getting weighing in and talking about the viability of this and talking about where the money's coming from. So it is a very different time too now than it was 30-some years ago when the last stadium was funded by the state. I don't know what the appetite is for our current elected officials or for the people who do the voting. I don't know what the appetite is for that kind of thing right now, and I don't know if it compares to the last time a stadium was built in this city using public money, let alone elsewhere in the country using public money. It just seems like things kind of keep moving away from that idea, and yet we still get brand new gleaming baseball and football stadiums built every year. So
yeah, and hey, we seemingly get endless amount of renderings.
Well, and that's the thing that jumps out to me is like you bring up the idea. If you just bring up the idea, say you're talking to your buddies at a bar, hey, would you be cool if they raised your taxes to pay for a new Bears stadium, new Sox stadium? Everybody would be like, no. Why in the world would I do that? And then guess what? Stadium gets built. You know what I mean? Like, right. So the idea, if the idea is that people don't have the appetite for it, why don't these stadiums stop getting built? Why are teams not staying in their 30-year-old stadiums? Why does it keep happening? It seems like regardless of what the appetite is, it comes down to the elected officials to determine whether or not this is actually going to end up happening.
And it's funny that you bring up the Oakland ballpark. We have the picture that you were talking about that Ryan thought you were such a joke. No walls. What is this guy talking about?
Look how cool that is.
This is what they designed. Vinny is just stating a fact.
I like it.
But yeah, no, it's interesting.
That's awesome.
It's unique. It feels like it's built into a hill.
There's trees on top of the stadium.
Hell is that
I
thing
really
right
like
there
that.
in
I
right
like
field?
So if you've been to Oakland, That is in Oakland. It's
bay?
shipping yard or industry of some kind.
You could jump off there and go into the bay.
No, it's not a diving board. Do not try that at home if you live in Oakland. But that I've driven by on the express. That's the expressway right there, and you can see it from the expressway. It's like I said, it's some sort of industry or shipping yard or something like that. And that is the land on which they were proposing to build this stadium. And this stadium was going to turn into, as you see, very much a ballpark, putting the park in ballpark. And I think that is a great idea. If you can incorporate grass and public land and nature and build all that stuff into the ballpark, that looks so neat. That looks so neat.
It's funny, too, that you bring up, elected officials. We talk about Oakland and Oakland pitching this, and they haven't their renderings, but then it seems like they're going to be going to Vegas. Vegas's mayor, Carolyn Goodland, recently said that the team's stadium plan for Vegas does not make sense, and that she personally thinks the A's have got to figure out a way to stay in Oakland to make their dreams come true. And that's from Front Office Sports.
And then she had to backtrack on that.
Of course.
She put out a statement.
Yeah,
she put out a statement flip-flopping on that right away.
Yeah, she spoke to candidly, and they're like, "Hey, this is way down the road. They're coming." So yeah, and it's public. A lot of public money being spent. They already spent public money on the Raiders stadium. They're going to spend public money on this A's stadium. Broke as hell.
Yeah. A lot of state money, I believe, is going into that ballpark in Vegas. So the Nevada, I believe, legislature has done a lot to approve funding for that as opposed to city funding, but I don't know all the details.
Interesting. All right, and then, Sarah, would you mind scrolling up? Because I think Ryan, Cuppy Coffee, mentioned something about St. Louis's ballpark. Private funding can happen if you have the right real estate development around it. Busch Stadium in St. Louis was privately financed, but that worked because of the surrounding development. That's the one thing that does interest me, is the one part that does seem to be churning and burning is Related Midwest. Man, they seem to be really excited about the ballpark that's going to be built at the 78 complex. Obviously, they own this land, and if you look at the other properties that they owned or are currently own, this is really the largest by far that they own. So it would make sense that maybe if this company was trying to put themselves out there, trying to make a name, they own the land, maybe there is some sort of discount or deal or something worked out where the White Sox are going to be providing business, people coming to that land. Like, I do wonder if this is Related Midwest's ability to be like, all right, well, hey, we'll fund X amount of this because we really want this certain property to be on this in the 78.
And I believe one of the Sun-Times reports that I read said that a lot of folks are still committed to that University of Illinois Research Center being there, which had been announced for that area. Mm-hmm. I think there is perhaps some plan being made where you would fit both a stadium and that research facility on there as part of that big campus or property or whatever you want to call it.
True.
So I'm saying you might be onto something there, that it's not. I think when we first heard about it, it was, the White Sox are going to buy this big piece of land and put a baseball stadium on it. And the more we hear about it, it seems that it could be more of a partnership, more of a the White Sox are a part of a bigger project.
Well, and Herb, you brought up the United Center.
Yep.
They're a part of the United Center. The Illinois state funding agency? I forget the
Illinois
ISFA?
Sports Facility Authority.
The Illinois
you
Sports
got one of four.
Facility Authority. They obviously own Guaranteed Rate Field. I do wonder if Jerry sees that as a positive, where again, like, we have somebody footing X amount of the bill, and that again, I still think that this is all leading towards him selling. I think that again, that probably makes it easier to say, hey, you don't have this part to worry about. It doesn't seem like it does seem too early, and I guess that's the final thing, and we'll go into the roster invites, the non-roster invites. It does seem a little bit too early because this was a stadium, Guaranteed Rate Field, that was just built and opened in 1991. It is only 2024. Maybe the biggest pitch is just 100-year anniversary of the All-Star Game and Related Midwest owning 50% of the land.
I don't know either, but yeah, remember they renovated Guaranteed Rate Field not too long ago in the early 2000s too. So the current iteration of the stadium is less than 25 years old. So it's like very, very early to change from a stadium which is fine to a stadium that is in an area that I think most Southsiders would be alienated from. Like the South Loop is not South Side. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if people are going to be like, I like the stadium, but that's downtown. That's not us. That's more Cubs stuff. We're Chicago. We're Bridgeport. We've been here for hundreds of years.
The Cubs are downtown?
You know what they're going to say. You know, Southsiders. You're a Southsider yourself.
I don't care about the, mile and a half between Guaranteed Rate Field and
No?
the 78. Isn't it still below Madison?
All you got to do is be below Madison Street.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care.
If somebody in the South Loop's like, man, I'm a Southsider, you're like, man, you are not a Southsider. You're a South Loop person.
But that's different. Like,
And they couldn't be called
the
the
White
Southsiders
Sox are a
anymore.
baseball team that takes up a giant vast of land. If you're a Southsider, you can get real niche into Chicago neighborhoods.
Herb, if you're complaining about the White Sox leaving the South Side because they're going to the South Loop, every alternative is worse.
It is. Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
You'd rather have them in Naperville?
No. I'm just saying, I know White Sox fans, and I know they're going to be bitching about the parking, and now I got to go to Yuppieville up in the South Loop. Get out of here. Hard hat White Sox fans not going to be happy with this new stadium initially, but then they're going to win. So
White Sox fans not happy about something? That's the first time hearing of that.
Anyways, I know a lot of people are talking about, I think Josh Nelson was talking about the influx of people using the red line. That Roosevelt stop, I think, gets over 1.5 million people per month.
That's a lot.
And the
A lot over there, yep.
Sox 35th one gets 600,000. So, a lot of people are going to be over by that Roosevelt thing.
There's 2 more lines, too.
There's going to have to be a lot of construction for those roads around there.
Well, and too,
Lots of it.
it's a long, winding way to get from that Roosevelt stop to the 78.
Because it's up.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to I don't know if they're going to build under and build a tunnel.
It's probably a good 15-minute walk.
Yeah. A lot of good union jobs are going to be created by this. So, hey, thanks,
Hopefully.
thanks,
There you
Chair Reinsdorf. All right. Let's move into spring training. We're getting closer and closer to 2024 spring training. And Vinny, being a part of that same media list that got the renderings of the 78, also got the non-roster invites for 2024 camp.
Yeah, if you were waiting to see which guys who aren't currently part of the 40-man roster are going to be going to Major League Camp, 25 of them. About half of them are minor league free agents. The other half are just minor leaguers who aren't on the 40-man roster. In terms of the minor league free agents, you got pitchers Justin Anderson, Joe Barlow, Jake Cousins, Chad Kuhl, and Jake Woodford. Catcher Chucky Robinson. Infielder, guys, he's back, Danny Mendick. And then a quartet of outfielders. Certainly we talked a lot yesterday about Kevin Pillar, but is additionally Rafael Ortega, Mark Payton, another former White Sox, and Brett Phillips. And then those minor leaguers who will be going to big league camp: Jonathan Cannon, Jordan Leisure, Nick Nastrini, Edgar Navarro, Nick Padilla, and Lane Ramsey, who just cleared waivers today, as well as Kai Bush and Frazier Ellard. Those are your pitchers. Catchers: Adam Hackenberg, Carlos Perez, and Edgar Caro going to big league camp, as well as Tim Elko, Zach Remillard, and Colson Montgomery.
Welcome back, Danny Mendick. That one I think is probably most exciting. Danny obviously left the White Sox in horrific fashion as Adam Purple Hazley tore his ACL on our CHGO takeover.
That's the day I got sunburned.
Oh, there you go. The day you got sunburned and the day that Danny
Really bad
Mendick
sunburn.
tore his ACL.
Really, you wonder who was injured worse that day, me or Danny Mendick.
I think it's you. Have you been able to recover?
Well, I did, but that was also less than a month before my wedding, so I was still a little red for the wedding.
How was the physical therapy for your sunburn? Mendick was doing very well before he got taken out. 122 OPS plus, 786 OPS in 106 plate appearances, but obviously his 2022 was ended shortly. He did play with the Mets in 2023. I think he had a pitching appearance. Didn't do great, a 40 OPS plus, a 509 OPS, but hey, he's a non-roster invite. It's just interesting to see him back.
How many big league games did he get in for the Mets last year?
33.
Okay, so not many.
No, I don't know how many started.
But hey, we were talking yesterday about who could be that fourth infielder. I mean, guys, depending on what happens, I think Danny Mendick has just as much of a case to make for being the extra infielder as Lenin Sosa does, as Jose Rodriguez does, right? I mean, it's a guy with major league experience and probably that grindy type that the White Sox are looking for right now.
Pop, too, in his bat. So, yeah, seeing how it plays out and see how Mendick plays. If it's the Mendick that left the White Sox in 22, I'll take that guy over Lane Sosa or any of those guys.
Yeah, I think Danny Mendick would take that too. If he could put up another season of a 122 OPS plus, he'd be thrilled. He's a very interesting guy. He's played 5 years, and his best year was a 122 OPS plus. His second best year was a 107 OPS plus. Then it was an 81 OPS plus. Then it was a 63 OPS plus, and then it was a 40 OPS plus. So he is going to be an even number. Hopefully it's, a 3-digit even number. 122 sounds nice. 140 sounds nice. But it does seem like it's either going to be a 20 OPS plus or like a 140, a 160 OPS plus from Danny Mendick. It really does seem like he has to hit all of those certain levels there. So welcome back, Danny Mendick. Any other guys that you are excited to see on this list? Any names that interest you?
I mean, keep an eye on all the pitchers, because I think we really have no idea what that bullpen's going to look like past 2 guys maybe. So I think anybody that is on the 40-man roster, anybody who isn't on the 40-man roster and was just in the list of names that I read, I would say they all have an equal chance of making this team should they impress the way they would need to in spring training. I don't think that, a guy like Sammy Peralta or a guy like even an experienced guy like Jimmy Lambert necessarily have this giant leg up over Chad Kuhl, right? I mean, Lane Ramsey gets DFA'd 2 days or however recently with the most recent addition of the roster. He clears waivers today. What's to say they can't just put him right back in the bullpen if he beats out some of the guys who might still have a 40-man roster spot? So I really think that bullpen is just entirely up for grabs, the spots in that bullpen. And so any of those pitchers, I think, could have a shot at making it.
I'm looking forward to Tim Elko. I know he's not going to make the team more than likely unless somebody gets hurt, but he's been mashing down there in the minor leagues. He's a little advanced in age because he went to college, but I think, if the White Sox ever, move on from Eloy Jimenez, this could be the DH/first baseman of the future.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, Tim Elko is a fan favorite, so I know people will be pumped if he, starts off spring training hitting 300
bombs
with 5 homers. People will be like, opening day starting first baseman.
They've got all those Ole Miss guys in the system now too. So
right, I mean, they're big SEC fans. I mean, you got Ben Tendy, you got Fletcher, right? There you go.
Fletcher's a hog.
All right, I don't want to name any.
I know what you mean.
It
just sounded weird.
Razorback.
Apparently, Arkansas outfielders, you can't be taller than 5'6". Goodness gracious.
He's not that short.
Sorry, 5'8".
Yeah,
you can't be taller than that. They're just diminutive left-handers.
It'll be interesting to see Jonathan Cannon and Nick Nastrini out of that list, just because they do have starting pitching potential. So we'll see if they're able to go 3-4 innings and be dominant.
You know who can make that bullpen? Jordan Leisure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was the next guy I was going to talk about. Yeah. Jordan Leisure, absolutely disgusting with his fastball. His slider is one of the best in minor league baseball. And another guy. One guy, I mean, you brought up Chad Kuhl, but, I don't think Justin Anderson's going to make it. Justin Anderson hasn't pitched for a Major League Baseball team since 2019. He was horrendous last year, was in the Royal system, and had like a 70 ERA. Joe Barlow, Jake Cousins, Jake Woodford, all kind of the same guy. Chad Kuhl's interesting just because he throws a slider about 50% of the time. If he can really ratchet up his mile per hour on that, if he can throw his slider over 87, 88 miles per hour, that's when he really sees effectiveness. So maybe Chad Kuhl going from a starter to a reliever could be interesting. But the one guy that might make this roster or might make this bullpen out of this roster is Fraser Ellard. I know that you were like, who the hell is Fraser Ellard when you first read this?
I will admit I have not heard of Fraser Ellard. I'm sorry.
I have to admit that I didn't hear of Fraser Ellard before this as well. Herb, were you a big Fraser Ellard guy?
No.
Okay. All right. Fraser Ellard is a lefty, and Fraser Ellard sits about 95, 96 with this 4-seam fastball, and has a disgusting slider. So he is just a lefty relief pitcher that does seem like to have elite stuff. If Drohan isn't going to make the team and they end up sending him back to Boston, maybe that is a guy that fills in for that lefty spot that they're looking for, especially with Garrett Crochet not likely being a part of this bullpen.
And guys, breaking White Sox news right here. A name has been added to that non-roster invite list. That would be 40-year-old reliever Jesse Chavez, veteran of 16 major league seasons. And guys, last year with the Braves,
just good.
36 games, a 1.56 ERA.
Jesse Chavez.
That's kind of sick.
Former Cub, former Ranger, former Brave.
Former a lot of things.
Yeah, that's fun. He was recently on, I think it was Sirius or something. It was Sirius XM with MLB Network. He says it's likely going to be his last season as a player before going into coaching, which I think is interesting just because we've seen the White Sox love all those guys that have been former players. I mean, hey, maybe you sign Jesse Chavez and he starts coaching guys now and he gets so familiar that Jesse Chavez is a part of the team in 2025 as a coach. So I'm all for Jesse Chavez. Why not?
And Connor is stealing my thing. I was going to say that, but, he got to come into the Frazier theme.
Hey,
Frazier
baby, I
Eller.
hear the blues are calling.
Yeah. Tossed salad and scrambled eggs.
Yeah, all right.
Good night, Seattle.
Yes.
Yeah. That dude's a weirdo. Kelsey Grammer, straight up weirdo. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast.
If you played the same character for like 21 years?
I guess so. I don't know. I watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and his wife was on season 1, Camille. And you see Kelsey for about like 3 episodes, and then he goes to New York. He's like, oh, I'm going to New York. I'm going to be in a play for about a year. And then he never returns to Beverly Hills again. He gets a divorce from Camille Grammer. He immediately leaves this woman for some 20-year-old. It's just horrendous. Anyways, that's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence. You
Who
can
knew
follow
you
him
had
at
so much knowledge of Kelsey Grammer?
I got a lot of knowledge of stupid things. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Hector23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. And I'm Sean Anderson. You should follow me at, you can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. And thank you to everyone for hanging out with us in the chat and giving us all your thoughts from Jared, Edward, Connor, Justin, White Sox, Tom, etc. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. We'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Friday. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.